Hello and welcome to today's super exciting video. I don't know what I'm doing, so if you found yourself here, good luck, champ. I'm an artist. I go by Sir Frogbert, and I normally do digital style oil paintings, or at least I think they're close to oil paintings. I'm also not a traditional artist, so I don't even know how close they are to oil paintings, but I've been told they're pretty close. Today we're looking at a piece I did mashing up Frieren and The Legend of Zelda, Majora's Mask to be specific. I normally don't do paintings this way where I start out with a under drawing, so here I started out with an under ink drawing that I did. Normally I'll go in and just start throwing colors on the canvas and then moving around shapes, refining shapes, and then bring the piece to life that way. Here was a little bit different because I did do that under inking, and I did that mainly because I enjoy inking. I started out art doing pencil and ink and then moved into color pretty late in my artist life, but I haven't been doing that much, so I've been trying to get back into it just because I do enjoy doing it, but I haven't quite found a style of inking that I like all too much yet. For this piece, it's not super important because the end finished product is much closer to what a normal painting would look like by me. In fact, I don't think there's any difference except for the structure and how I got there, but who knows, maybe there is. How this piece started was pretty strange. It started out as a high fantasy, or not high fantasy, but sci-fi, and then moved into Frieren. So it started out as having a kind of technological sphere floating off in the background, and I had a android girl up in the foreground. It moved pretty quickly away from that as I started moving around the sphere, figuring out the layout that I wanted. I ended up putting a face on the sphere and was like, that kind of looks like the moon from Majora's Mask. And then I was like, well, what if I put a wizard here in the bottom looking at the moon? And because I've been watching Frieren, she just came to mind and the piece was born. Speaking of Frieren, I've been loving the latest season. I just finished watching through it. It was shorter than I wished it would be. I was hoping for a full-length season like the first season, but I guess most anime seem to be moving towards the shorter style seasons, so not much you can do there, but I did really love it. The animation, just like the first season, is top-notch. I think I enjoyed the season's story more than the second half of the first season. Very much looking forward to season 3, but also hoping there will be a season 4. Hopefully the mangaka for Frieren gets off of hiatus. when it comes to the Zelda side of this, I've always been a big fan of Zelda. It was one of the first games I played on my Nintendo 64. In fact, I worked hard for The Legend of Zelda Ocarina of Time. The 64 we got came with Majora's Mask, but the cartridge was broken or there was something with it. For some reason, we just couldn't play it. So I wanted to play a Zelda and found out that before it was Ocarina of Time. So I made a deal with my mom to wash the car so many times, and then she would spend the $7 to get me Ocarina of Time from eBay. And so that was the first big game that I played through on my own and tried to beat. I didn't for years after getting the 64. In fact, me and my brother would watch videos online of how to play through it and how to beat it. And then it wasn't until after that that I finally built up the courage to go through the Shadow Temple and finish the whole game. But that being said, I've been a big fan of Zelda for almost my entire gaming life. I've played almost all of them, and including the mobile Zeldas, which, fingers crossed, they bring back some of the Phantom Hourglass and Spirit Tracks as remasters for the Switch 2, but that's a side tangent for another day. As being a big fan of both, it feels so good to put Frieren in this world, because it just kind of feels like she fits in so well with the Zelda universe, being another fantasy universe, and so many different parts of it just kind of click. When it comes to my style, I do see it as more of a painterly style. I find smudging around the paint using the smudge tool as a really effective way to get detail out of the painting and also round out your shapes how you want. I think just moving the paints together, mixing them using the smudge tool, it really brings out a certain character that oil paintings have. I believe that's because that's how traditional artists paint with oil paintings. But again, don't hold me to that. I'm not a traditional painter. I'm not a traditional artist. Never have been, so I don't know for sure on that. But I do find it a really fun process of just throwing colors at the canvas, blending them together, and then refining out your shapes from there. I find it fun and effective, at least for my style. If you're an artist, let me know what you find most enjoyable about the painting process. And I don't just mean getting to put your ideas onto the canvas, but I mean the part of your process that you find the most enjoyable. For me, that's definitely the smudge tool, but I want to know what it is for most other artists. Overall, I think when it comes to art, the most enjoyable part is definitely getting to put your creativity and your imagination out. Getting to see what's in your head become a reality. That, of course, is very satisfying. When it comes to Frieren and The Legend of Zelda, I think the part of those worlds that capture me the most is the more mundane, the more serene moments. Like when I'm playing through Breath of the Wild or Tears of the Kingdom, the parts I enjoy the most are just slowly walking through an area, getting to see the world. In fact, I played part of Breath of the Wild pretending I was a wildlife photographer, just going around looking at the different critters running around in the environment. And I think that those games do a really great job at lending themselves towards that, just because of the incredible world that Nintendo managed to build in them. But I think every Zelda has had at least portions of that. I do remember my most enjoyable part of Ocarina of Time when I first booted it up was just getting to explore and see this fantasy world like I'd never had been able to before, especially it being my first full 3D game I played and my first fantasy game I played. Getting to be in that world and explore it was incredible as a kid. And then that's probably also why I love Frieren. Frieren really seems to relish in the quieter moments, getting to explore the ideas of just what does this world look like. And I think my favorite anime tend to do that. My absolute favorite anime is Violet Evergarden, and I know for a fact it does a ton of that. So maybe that's why I tend to gravitate more towards Frieren as being one of my favorites. Anyways, the reason that I'm making this video is, as an artist in today's world, you have to put your content out there, but you also have to make yourself into a content creator and a personality if you want to get any traction. So I've always thought about doing this, but especially since I'm trying to get more of my art out there, it's almost seen as a necessity to put yourself out there, which is kind of weird. Definitely not used to doing this sort of thing, just sitting here talking to myself in front of my computer. It's a little bit odd, a different muscle you have to use, but hopefully somebody likes it, or at least they like my art enough to sit through me rambling. If you have gotten this far, then I'd ask, put into the YouTube comments what you do like about the video, and maybe what you'd like to see me do in the future, whether it's a specific painting idea you'd like to see in my style, or a different style of video you'd like to see. Just let me know. Anyways, thanks for watching. Here's the final piece. Let me know what you think about it. I definitely love the way that it came out, and have a great day.